Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce the three of us. So I'm Diane Fanning, and I work with Scholarship Manager. I have for the last 10 years. Lynn Garcia is our other Vice President of Sales, and she works with Dynamic Forms. Those are the two main products we're going to talk about today. And then Tara Clendenin is the manager of our customer support. And I will say humbly that her team is truly the best in the business. We're going to do a short video, and then I'll talk more about Next Gen and our products, and we'll get into the actual session. So thank you.
All right, back to you, Diane.
Okay, did we do the poll, or will you do the poll, I guess, please?
Yeah, sure. You ready for it?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end it. It looks like about 83% say no and 17% say yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I've introduced myself, Lynn, and Tara. So I wanted to take just a minute and talk about NextGen and also talk about Nelnet. So NextGen, our little family, has been in business since 2008. Our session today is going to focus on Scholarship Manager. We have four other products. Lynn is actually going to give you some highlights on Dynamic Forms. She's going to share a little bit today, and then our verification process. And then we also have Timesheet and JobX, which grew up in the federal work study arena. So we've really always been about having products that interface with all of your other systems to try and help you make you more efficient. So in April of this year, we were acquired by Nelnet. Not that many of you are involved in scholarships, but if you go back to your institutions and talk to the individuals there. So, and looking at the audience ahead of time, I know that we have attendees that have currently used Scholarship Manager and Dynamic Forms. So thank you to all of you for joining us today. And we have institutions that use other scholarship platforms. And then we have institutions that have no scholarship systems. So for those that are on other platforms, there have been acquisitions over the last few years in our area. And when this acquisition happened, I can tell you, working in this area, it did not go unnoticed. But what I also is really important for me to say on behalf of everyone at NextGen is a huge, huge compliment to Nelnet, because our logo now says NextGen Web Solutions and Nelnet Company. They have embraced us, made us part of the Nelnet family, where we can meld together, but they've also respected what we've built over the last couple of decades, and our team is in place. Everything has remained the same, and we continue to serve our schools and look towards ways that we can integrate with Nelnet's products. So it's been a really great experience, and I think all of our clients would say the same thing. Jackie, has been amazing meeting with everyone from our different schools, and it's just been a really wonderful experience. All right, so financial aid. Now, I will just say I am in awe of the financial aid departments at all the schools. There is so much to financial aid, and the last couple of years, no one on any campus cannot know that it's been challenging with the FAFSA redo, and now with new legislation, things could change. And so what I'm trying to do here is just give you a little window in, with total respect for any of you on the 18% that currently are involved in scholarships. So scholarships are one piece of the puzzle. There's a pecking order when the allocations of monies go onto students' account. And honestly, the area most of you work in with payment plans and payments is really on the back end, right? Because first they're trying to apply any grants, scholarships, and loans and waivers, etc. Now, when you do this, it's not a straightforward, simple, linear process. And that's where having a scholarship system comes into play, because you can go back and forth between maybe some institutional monies have been given to a student, but they would much rather have them be endowed donor funds to replace. So it's an iterative process when you're working with scholarships and all of the other forms of aid. What are some of the reasons that institutions have, over the last, I would say, decade, it's really grown to have a scholarship system? Either institutions have no automation or they have a system that's not meeting their current challenge. Spreadsheets, those of you that are not using a system, and maybe even some of you that have a system, still have some spreadsheets that you rely on. Students participating in the application process. And it's really important. It's not just the student application, it's integration between data that's already on your systems, because you don't want the students on the student side to have to do double duty. And on the administrative side, you don't want to have to validate answers the students give you when you can get that information from your student system, your admission system, et cetera. So having a scholarship system helps you in that regard. It helps you ensure that awarding guidelines are followed. It helps you ensure you're not over awarding fund amounts, that you can easily change criteria when you haven't had enough candidates to utilize all of the funds. And then the whole back end process of students thanking the donors, doing thank you letters, and presenting information. So these are some of the general and common reasons that we see schools looking to have a scholarship product. All right, scholarship manager. So here's the 10,000-foot view. There are a lot of pieces to this puzzle. And at the bottom, you'll see it's really management of institutional, so merit-based scholarships, need-based scholarships, departmental, donor-funded, renewable scholarships that can renew from one year to the next, swapping. There are schools that will give, as I just mentioned, institutional funds, but then try to back end those with endowed funds and replace those. And so there's always the back and forth. And that's where the systems like this come into play. So what is the system going to have? All of the donors, all of the scholarships, and the selection criteria to qualify students for the scholarships. And then we're building that student profile that can be made up of information coming from your systems, the student application, and then third-party recommendations. And here, for any of you that don't have a system, the magic bullet is in the middle, because all of that information is fed in and set up so the system can do the work to identify and qualify candidates for you. On the back end, then you go through the reviewing and the awarding, and all of that is in an organized, structured way. Students are notified, they can do their thank you letters, you can engage your donors, and then we report back to your systems on the back end. So accessing the system, one thing that I'll say about Scholarship Manager is, I always tell schools, we're not giving you a system and telling you how to do scholarships. We're giving you a product that is very flexible, that can be set up in any number of ways, depending upon how you choose to operate in your institution. And one of those areas is, how are you going to access the system? Do you want all of your students to already be admitted and come in through single sign-on? There are some schools that want students to apply for admissions and then apply for scholarships before they're admitted. So flexibility is a key, I think, in all the areas where we offer this product to all of you. Integration. So really, integration has come a long way over the last few years. So we integrate on the front end, right? The whole goal is to get student data from your systems into our system to qualify your students for scholarships. Now, we don't just take one file. So we have, for example, many schools that have Banner as a student system, or PeopleSoft, and then Slate as our admission system. And so what we can do is we can take multiple data files in on the front end. You don't have to mesh them on your side. You can send them individually to us. We pull it all together, and then we have everything in Scholarship Manager that we can get from your systems, and then the student only has to provide the additional information. We can pull in your donor data from your systems. We can pull in financials for reporting to your donors. And then on the back end, you want to get that award information, not just the initial award, but modifications, cancellations, et cetera, back into your back end systems. And we give you options there. We can do it in a batch, or we can do it in real time. So depending upon how you choose to operate, that's what we're going to do for you. One other area of integration, and I only have a couple more slides and then we'll get into the actual demo, but another area that I want to talk about is that integration that we have with Scholarship Manager and our Dynamic Forms product. So when a student gets an award, they can come online, accept their award, do their thank you letter, but maybe it's an athletic scholarship or some type of scholarship where you need the student to actually complete an agreement and sign it. If that happens, then the student we can interface with our dynamic forms product so that the student can complete the form and electronically sign it. Now, we do that in a limited basis with the bridge we have between Scholarship Manager and Dynamic Forms, but we also have a full-fledged deployment of Dynamic Forms. And this is where Lynn is going to take a minute and just review with you an overview of Dynamic Forms.
Thanks, Diane. If she gave you the 10,000 kind of view of Scholarship Manager, I'm going to give you the 20,000 view of 20,000 foot view of Dynamic Forms, just real quick here. It's our e-signature and workflow platform that allows any department on campus that might have forms that they work with to put them in an electronic format. Super easy to manage. We've tried to create a very intuitive product where, if you're like me and you don't have a lot of IT expertise, you can learn with the drag and drop functionality on how to create content for your forms. It is secure, confidential. We are ADA compliant as well as mobile responsive. So if your students or staff or faculty or parents are trying to access the forms on a mobile device, it will resize and give them a mobile-friendly screen for them to complete the forms on. Even though we've tried to, I think, create a very intuitive product that is very robust as far as the functionality and capability. So you can choose to have required fields. You can have validation in your fields, which really forces your end users not only to give you the correct information, the accurate information, but in a format that you would like to see it in. It's got a very powerful workflow tool that you can use to have skip logic to show or hide certain fields. You can route forms dynamically. If a student logs in via the single sign-on process, it might identify their unique student ID and then automatically route the form to their dean or their advisor, with staff to their particular supervisor. It will accommodate file uploads. So if you need for end users to upload copies of transcripts, letters, ID, we'll go ahead and scan all those for virus or malware, and that will come over as part of the form submission itself. The electronic signatures are all not only e-sign compliant, but FERPA and HIPAA compliant. And we have, in addition to the SSO integration, API integration, so data exchange with your student information system. We also have batch integration with different document management systems. And then, of course, integration with Nelnet checkout. So you can make some pretty nice looking payment forms, have it used as act as the gateway to that payment, and then have those end users come back to submit that form. So you're not only getting the payment remitted, but you might be also capturing different pieces of data that you want associated with that transaction. So that's the quick view. If anybody has any additional questions, I will hang on, happy to answer them, or just please reach out if anybody would like to see a demo of Dynamic Forms. So thanks, Diane.
You bet. Okay. A couple more slides about, I think, mission critical things about Scholarship Manager. When we talk about we're a true multi-year solution, what that means is on an ongoing basis, of course, that grows over time. We have 7 years of your academic years online at any time. The 2 most recent academic years are updatable. So you can be finishing 25, 26 while you're starting 26, 27 academic years. And that's really important because you don't really have a line in the sand where, oh, I can just, close up this academic year and start the next. So this system allows you to go back and forth. It allows you to go back to prior years. That gives you year over year reporting, and you can search and report individually or across years. I don't care what system you're implementing, reports is always mission critical. So with us, the system comes with over 100 reports out of the box. I'll just say what we do is work with all of our clients, make sure that you have the reporting that you need. And equally important is we have a really cool communications package in our product. So you can literally communicate with students, with reviewers, with donors, and it can really be on any combination. If the data's in the system, you can have a communication out. You might have a communication out that's mid-year to this group of students saying, hey, we got a new scholarship in, and here's a question this donor has. If you'll come answer it, you might get more money. You might want to set up an auto email or text that goes out every week and checks and on students that haven't finished an application, remind them to do it so that you're hands off then in having to do the follow up. So it's a really nice communication package that also comes with the product. And then finally, how do we implement? You'll have a dedicated project manager. We have a very detailed approach to implementation, which I think is in a very good way for all of you, so that you know exactly what's going on, who's doing what, when it's due. And we use a product management tool, which is user-friendly, Basecamp, to help with the implementations. Okay, let's get into the actual demo. So no more 2-page slides. So I apologize that you were seeing in that view. All right, this is my demo system, but what I wanted to start with is just talk about or show you, I guess, some of the things that we talked about as far as flexibility. So number one, if I'm going to different clients now that have Scholarship Manager, and each one of their sites will look different, it will be personalized and it will be customized for them. So here's an example where the school, there are their students, and they actually have all their students come in through single sign-on. Their administrators, their reviewers, their donors. So if they are a private donor, they would create a secure login into our system. If they're faculty or staff, they would come in through single sign-on. Scholarships. Now I want to talk about a piece called external scholarships. Some of you that have a product have external scholarships. Our clients can make up search terms, and then students can come online. Now I'm on the public view. You have the choice whether or not you show things publicly. It can all be behind the secure login if you so choose. But here, for example, showing the flexibility for UMass Lowell, they're routing their students when they have external scholarships, and they set up a Instagram site where they can see and find the links to all of their external scholarships. Another school chose to actually load their external scholarships into our system, there for the students to view and then route them out. So again, flexibility on how you choose to set your system up. When you have the search terms, each school will have their own search terms. You also have a category, or excuse me, a word search. And then you can also display your donors. So if you wanted to display on the public site your donors, the scholarships they fund, again, completely up to you. Here's an example of a school that wants a blended login. So they want prospective students to be able to apply for scholarships as well as current students. So again, just the flexibility to set up the system in the way that each of you needs. Just a couple more. Here's a school that has external reviewers. So you're coming in, if you work for the college, you would log in. If you're an external reviewer, you would log in. So just a lot of flexibility in how we operate the system. Last one. So here, this is the South Dakota Board of Regents, and they have scholarships for any of the universities in the system. And they also have scholarships for students outside of the system. So both can access. Now, each individual university, and thank you, South Dakota State, for being on. And I actually just saw some of you last week. So each university has their own scholarship site. So it's just flexibility in how you set up the system and how you access the system to meet your specific needs. This is our administrative portal. I will just say there is a lot to a scholarship system. It's a complicated process. We try to make our system as intuitive and user-friendly as we can in the process. I'm just going to hit some highlights. So I'm going to look at a scholarship. We talked about some of the different iterations that happen. So number one, the requirements. These are the requirements that get set up to identify the candidates for the scholarships. And those requirements could be their inaugural year. If it's renewable, they could be the renewable criteria. And so all of that's getting set up so that we can identify the candidates for all the scholarships. Then we're setting up, if any schools are doing the backfilling, and I can tell you for schools that do it, this is a very onerous task, and it's spreadsheet heavy, knowing which scholarships can backfill other ones. In this system, the entire infrastructure is in place. So you could come in and say, for the outstanding teacher scholarship, it can backfill these two, institution commitment or a merit placeholder. So you can decide and set all of that up in the system. And then finally, you set up the back end for the awarding rules. So what can the awarding be done? Can it be, is there a minimum maximum amount? Here's where you're telling the system these are the renewable. Do you want thank you letters? So all of the things that would be set up on the back end to facilitate the review and awarding process. So you have the requirements, you have the awarding rules set up, we set up all of the criteria in the system, and we map everything. So whether it's coming from PeopleSoft or Slate or Banner or Workday, it doesn't matter. It's all set up and mapped in the system. And then to save time, I'm not going to go logically. I'm going to skip to the back end, and I'm going to show you what happens on the awarding. So we've set the scholarship up. We've told the system it's renewable. We've told the system it's backfillable. Now, when it's time to do the final awarding, you would come into the system, and I'm going into one scholarship. Now this tab is showing everything that is set up that we just went through. One thing that's nice about this system, we're tracking the renewables. So when you come into a new academic year, we can tell you for this fund, you need this amount of money set aside for your returning students before you ever start awarding new students. And then when you come in to process, the system's going to tell you this student fell out of eligibility, and then the school can decide, do we want to let them continue? Do we want to cancel? When we talked about the backfilling, so if you go in to make an award, actually, let me go back and make the award. Or not make the award. Well, I was going to show you backfillable, but we'll skip that. All right. So now when you get done and you've got all of your awards, then you can come in and you can see, you can always make modifications, and you can send the award emails. What does it look like from the student's perspective? So our student portal, it's task driven. They can see what they need to do and when they need to do it by. You can see, you can have, here's an emergency grant that goes over 2 different academic years. The student does the application. I'll just do this briefly. They come in and we have smart questions. So each student can have their unique path. I'm asking, have you served in the military? I'm saying yes. It's opening up another question. So on and so forth. They can go through all of the application. Here's multiple choice. You have all different types of questions that they can answer. Here's yes, no with details. Now students can come back in and provide this information as many times as they want up until the due date of the application or until they close it and submit it. So here you can see this was a smart question. It opened up more questions. So the nice thing about this system is within an application, you can have skip logic. So each student could theoretically have their own path through the application. And we also have workflow, which triggers when an application presents itself. So here I have it set up. If the student does the general application and they're in the business department, have them do the business application. And this is the way that we're going to work with you to streamline the system for you, so that for your students, so that they're not having to go out and look for opportunities and figure out what to apply for. We hopefully have everything set up so that it flows smoothly for them. When they get awards, they would come in and you have multiple steps, again, defined at the scholarship level. Do you want them to accept that award? The thank you letter is a nice process. They're simply doing the body of the letter, and then we're putting everything together internally for the foundations and advancement to put together the thank you letters. You can have the students answer additional questions, maybe have a picture. They can do a video thank you if you choose. And then when we were talking about our dynamic forms, if you need any forms signed, we would present the form, they would complete the form, and they would electronically sign it. So you really have end-to-end workflow on the entire scholarship process. We also have something called informational tasks that can be set up by you, so you can send students tasks that you might want them to complete. So you have applications, third-party recommendations, awards, etc. All right. So that I hit these last couple before we get cut off. The donors. So on our donor portal, donors can log in. Now, nothing displays here unless it's approved by the university, and you control the donor access. And no, not every donor is going to want to get online. That's why we also print and email the donor documents. But here you can have attachments. Donors can register for events. We're leveraging our Dynamic Forms product again. And then here in an online mode, they can see their awardees. They can see the thank you letters. They can read about them. If there's a video thank you, they can see the financials. And then schools can also put in discretionary funds. So when it's a scholarship, you would see a thank you discretionary fund. You might see a departmental impact report. And so there's the nice online donor portal. And then going back in and looking at the final steps on the back end. So once all of the awarding is done, the thank you letters can get, the thank you letters have been done by the students, then the foundation or advancement can come on and they can review the thank you letters, which makes it really nice. They can modify it, they can reject it back to the student. Same thing with those Q&As. And this all happens before anything is released to the donor portal, or we can process and give them PDFs of the thank yous. Now, the updating on the back end, these are the functional trigger points where we would update back to colleague, PeopleSoft, Workday, whatever, Banner. And so these are functional. And then we work with your IT folks. And we actually have all of the links built in. And here's just an example of one where we do the real-time updating back to, in this case, it's Banner for your award information. The reporting that I mentioned, these are all categories of reports, over 100, close to 150 reports. And then you can run reports and you can export them to Excel. And I think I've left myself a couple of minutes. Tara, Lynn, do we have any questions? No.
No.
None outstanding.
Okay. So everyone gets to end their day a couple of minutes early, unless anyone would like to ask any questions here. If anyone's interested, like Lynn said, about more data, we have more detailed information we could provide that you could share with the folks that do either your electronic forms or your scholarships on your campuses. And then with that, we thank you for giving us this few minutes to take a look at what we're doing. Have a great afternoon, everyone.